said you got it. I think it is.
Ready? Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. There was a request that we take a short moment of silence for the student at Morgan Road Elementary who passed away last week. If we could have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay, it is Tuesday, July 29th. We have routine business 2.10. Do I have a motion to approve, acknowledge, and/or accept the routine business items as submitted? Motion by Ms. Brissette, second by Ms. Martin. Any discussion? All those in favor? All hands are raised. Thank you. I do want to recognize we have Ms. Frasina, our new high school principal, in the audience. Thank you for being here. Welcome. And also our new transportation director, Mr. D. Mr. D. What's the last name? Mr. LaFou. Thank you. I had it all ready and then I lost it, so I'm sorry. We're so happy to have both of you here and just going to contribute to our incredible administrative team that has formed and is forming and will continue to be formed with our new superintendent who is coming in next week. So President's Report. Today's meeting is a momentous occasion, even though it might not seem like it. It brings to end, for me, a 13-month journey since I became board president, and what was really a 3+ year nightmare. It has not always been a smooth road, but such is life. I'm very proud of the work I've done, and I'm proud of the work that we've done together to make this possible, to bring this to fruition, to bring a new superintendent who can lead us into the future. They say criticism is something you can avoid by saying nothing, doing nothing, and being nothing. And therefore, I welcome the criticism because it helps us get better, right? Unfortunately, I don't share very much of my personal life in this space anymore, really to protect myself, because folks have proven that they will use it against me or use it as fodder for something else. But I feel impelled to say this summer has been a transformative experience for me personally, possibly leading to a transition in my professional and personal lives. It hasn't been easy, but it's filled my heart with joy and hope, working directly with young people, which is something that I know so many of you who have had that opportunity feel. Supervising teenagers who share the same love and drive to study music as I did. It has been truly transformative. And it's shown me how much of what we do sometimes is stagecraft. And so I want to go forward in a different light, that we now have completed our mission that we took 13 months to do, and now we can move on. And there's no use getting stuck in a rut, getting stuck in doing things the same way as we've always done. I think as Ms. Chilbert would always say, we don't want to get stuck in that, right? So that being said, I want to thank Mr. Nolan for his time here as interim superintendent. Again, it hasn't always been easy, but I think in time, we will grow to be quite thankful for his steady leadership through this time, and it will help catapult us into the future. And I especially appreciate how closely you have been working with Mr. Chapman to make sure that our transition is as smooth as possible. We stand on the precipice of the unknown. Given the state of contemporary politics, the economy, and the ever-growing needs of our student population, we have our work cut out for us. But that has never been a time for Liverpudlians to give up. Never. Rather, it's a time to dig deeper and to get better at what we do. And I hope that we are all committed at this table to get better at what we do. First, before I move on to some of our housekeeping things, I have to tell you, the cuts to public broadcasting have had me absolutely sick over the past couple weeks. And so I don't normally ask this, but WCNY is set to lose $1.3 million out of their annual budget because of whatever nonsense is going on in Washington, D.C. This is an incredible organization, and I'm sure so many of you have had kids who have benefited from the programming, and selfishly, I'm a 91.3 listener. So they're looking for 3,000 new members in order to fill that gap. And if you can be one of those people that commits to helping public broadcasting, I would be truly appreciative, and I think over time it will be beneficial to our student population as well. Moving on to some housekeeping things, thank you to those of you who have responded in the Google form about committee assignments, building liaisons, and some of the additional initiatives. We'll go through that and hopefully by the end of the week have out some answers for folks on those. And I appreciate especially some of the comments about retreat topics for the future. I also wanted to discuss, and maybe this is something you can send in to me, but possibly looking at if not assignments, encouraging board members to be visiting our PTOs, which I know, we do have some representatives already who are part of our PTOs, and I try to get there as much as possible, but these people are the movers and shakers in our district, and anyone who's been to one, you probably leave feeling reeling because there's so much going on, and these are the folks, though, that I think can get our message out really well for us. And so if that's something that you would like to see in the future, let me know, and we can get that type of a schedule out as well. Board seating. Obviously, Stacy and I are here. This will be the superintendent. I think the immediate past vice president should be right on the other side. And then I'd like you all to work out wherever else you would like to sit. I do not want to be responsible for it. So work out amongst yourselves. If you don't like where you're sitting right now, work it out. We will be having a retreat next Tuesday with Matt Cook, and I had an impromptu phone conversation with Dr. Cook and Mr. Chapman after a superintendent's meeting, just to discuss a little bit of what we were hoping to see or what he was hoping to bring forward. And thankfully, it kind of rhymes with some of the responses I've gotten already in our Google form, which is team building, but also how we can better respond to the constituents around us by staying within the framework that we're supposed to as a school board and as school board members. but also kind of giving examples without using district names, but using examples of districts that have done it well and districts who maybe haven't done it so well. And so I'm hoping that that time especially will be, I think there will be quite a bit of chance for us to openly discuss about things that we think could go differently or that would improve our functioning as a board together. If you haven't met Matt Cook, well, you have met Matt Cook, but he's a pretty low-key guy, and so there's not going to be any voice raising, certainly from him. And so I hope that we can all take it as a low-key night, and we're not going to solve everything in one night. We're not gonna build Rome on Tuesday night, but it'll be a start. And then you can put forward your requests for a possible future date in the fall, maybe at a different location, and we'll see. We'll go from there. I don't know if it's been discussed, but it was just something on my mind, so I thought I'd throw it out there. Opening day. I don't know if we have plans for opening day yet. I don't see Ms. Dolson, but I would love for us to get back to an opening day where most of the board is present with the new superintendent, and to have a true welcoming segment. And I hope that that's something that's in the process, and if not, that we can steer things in that direction. So that's all for me. Thank you to the person that just put in their response, appreciate that. And I will turn it over to the last interim superintendent report, Mr. Nolan.
Thank you, President Blaney, and thank you for those comments, and thank you for also sharing your story. I think it's a story that's well worth sharing, and I think moving forward is the direction that you're hoping for, and I think that that's going to happen. So I'm very pleased to hear that. I'm going to be very brief. I know there's a few things that the board has asked me to kind of update them on. So let me start with Yonder pouches, the distraction-free schools that are coming to Liverpool, New York. So as everyone knows, the governor decided to allocate funds for schools to create distraction-free school zones by limiting the use of internet devices in schools. We have been one of the first districts to sign on at the state level, and just on July 11th, we received our letter from the state informing us that our allocation was $33,779. It's based on a formula that they used enrollment for the 23-24 school year. We had already been looking into the availability of vendors who provide types of security. One of them is Yonder Pouches, but we also looked at 3 other companies that supply these types of pouches. And we also looked at a phone app that is out there. And as a district, a cabinet and executive team really came to the conclusion that the best product is these Yonder pouches that, if you watched the news last night, the governor was at North Syracuse, and it's kind of what most of the local school districts are going to, this Yonder pouch. Now, here's the news. The under contract, the Yonder pouches are $25 a piece. We have an allocation from the state, which gives us about $13 a piece, so we're short. The total cost to implement Yonder pouches at the high school, and only at the high school, for 2,300 pouches is the total cost of about $62,500. Our state allocation of $33,000 leaves us about almost $29,000 short, which is something that Assistant Superintendent Vile and I have been working on with Superintendent Chapman, we have decided to go with the Yonder pouches. We have signed the contract with them. We've done a PO. The high school executive principal is very anxious to get started with the implementation plan, working with Yonder. We will implement Yonder pouches at the high school level this coming fall. And we will, at our middle school levels, continue to use lockers and backpacks, which is also part of our policy. We've complied with everything the state has asked us to comply with, the district's moving forward. I'm thinking that you'll have a year under your belt to see how they go at the high school, and it might be something that the district will consider moving towards using the same type of pouches at the middle school level, maybe next year. It'll certainly give you time to put together a budget for them. That was one of the problems this year. This decree from the governor came after the budget process was already complete. So, but that's where we are. If anybody has any questions on that, I'd be happy to ask or answer any of those. But Superintendent Chapman and I have been talking about this for more than we want to.
Thank you for the updates that you sent to the board.
Okay, good. So then just the other thing that I want to bring everybody up to kind of in the loop on is we've had this discussion since I've been here about UPK, Universal Pre-K Transportation, to see if there's a way that, like our surrounding neighborhood districts provide transportation for pre-K, UPK students, whether Liverpool could also look into being able to provide transportation. So we've been, as a district, between the cabinet and the transportation center and the executive team, we've been looking at this now since probably the first day I started here in March. One of the first things we did was we put together a questionnaire that we sent out to all of our incoming UPK parents. I think there's about 250 students who are signed up for UPK. Of that, we got, I think, about 140 responses in the questionnaire. And in the questionnaire, I think there were probably, the numbers like 110, 115 parents that were interested in transportation if it was going to be available. So then we took the next step of looking at what that would look like in our current system of transportation. For those unfamiliar, the way the transportation department set up, they run their routes in tiers. So tier 1, that's the whole high school. In the morning, they're there at 7:20. All the buses are dedicated to the high school runs. That's tier 1. Tier 2 is then our middle schools, our 6-8 buildings. So all the tier 2 schools, they have their run. Their runs end approximately 8 a.m., somewhere in there. And then there's a tier 3 because we have this issue with the Soul Road and Morgan Road campuses with not being able to have transportation into or out of those campuses at the same time because of the traffic congestion that is created. So those two campuses have a different time schedule than the other schools. So the tier 3 schools, and I think it's Chestnut Hill. No, there's 2 schools that are in the tier 3 run, which leaves this window open for transportation between tier 2 and tier 4. Tier 4 are all the elementary schools. That starts at like 9 o'clock when they're all dropped off. So we looked at how we might be able to utilize busing for that tier 3, which also happens to be the same time that the UPK centers start, 8:30, 9 o'clock. So it fits into that nice tier between tier 2 and tier 3 window. So we've explored that. How would that look like? We had a couple models. We came up with several models. We could have the kids picked up and dropped off at a middle school and then transfer to the center. We didn't really like that. That's what North Syracuse does. We're trying to work it out so that it would be a straight run for students from their home to the center. The other thing we have to look at is when you're not 4, if you start, so you can start UPK at 3 as long as you're 4 years old by December 1st, right? But if you're 3 starting in September, riding a school bus, you have to be in a car seat, which then creates another issue for us because we plan on using the same buses to transport our other students, and we can't be pulling these car seats in and out. So then we have to make a decision, all right, so we can't take any 3-year-olds until December, but let's look at our 4-year-olds. So what we've done in the last 2 weeks, Mr. Armstrong, myself, Mr. Chapman, because we kind of want to build some capacity to this and phase it in. We know we can't do the whole district all at once. So we decided to take a look at how we can maybe phase in a couple cohorts of students who are UPK students. So we looked at 2 of our centers, Central and North. And Mr. Armstrong went back, he looked at the students who are enrolled at those centers for next year. We got their addresses. We took a look at what the number of students from the parent survey would be, who said they'd be interested in transportation. We then we created another questionnaire. We sent it directly just to those families that would be in that cohort to ask them if, 1, they're still interested in transportation if it's provided, and 2, would they be interested in if it's phased in? So if it didn't start in September, if it started in December, would they still be interested? So that survey just went out. Mr. Armstrong, I think last week, was just getting the results from that questionnaire that went out. So this is a work in progress. This is still a discussion item. What we're trying to do is make this cost neutral to the district. We're not trying to add any cost to the district to do this. We're trying to see if we can use our current runs, with the runs that will be scheduled in the next couple of weeks by transportation, to use those current or developing runs. I'll use that language, the runs that will be developed for this new school year. If we can plug those UPK kids in that we know have asked to be transported and maybe on a run, and I'll give you the example. So there's a UPK center close to Willowfield Elementary, right? And we're going to transport kids to Willowfield Elementary. So the students who are UPK, who could be living in the same neighborhoods of students who are going to Willowfield, who are going to be transported, could also then be routed on those buses with kids who are going to go to Willowfield, but they'll just be dropped off at the UPK center, right? So it's cost neutral. We're not adding a new bus. We're not adding a new driver. We're just trying to see if we can utilize what we already have, making it cost neutral to the district, but also providing these families with the opportunity to have their UPK students transported. So the question then we ask, right? So the big picture question is, why do we want to do this, right? The big question is, what's the benefit for Liverpool Central School District to offer transportation for UPK students? Well, we all know that we have cohorts of 500 students at every grade level, whether it's kindergarten, 6th grade, 9th grade, or 12th grade. There's 500 kids in that cohort, in that group. And we know there's 500 kids who are going to come into kindergarten this year. So we know there's 500 kids in UPK, but as a district, we only get about 250 kids a year. So we know there's not the number, couple factors. There's not enough centers to probably accommodate all 500. We don't have enough capacity in our buildings to have space to accommodate. So there's a lot of other moving parts that need to kind of be strategically planned out. But the idea is that if you talk to a kindergarten teacher or a 1st grade teacher in the Liverpool Central School District, they're going to tell you that the students who had some pre-K experience are much more prepared for kindergarten than those students who did not have any pre-K experience. And you'll also hear from our special ed department that the greatest number of referrals that we are receiving are students who are entering into kindergarten for services, whether it's 504 services or special ed services. So the benefit to the school district is to get as many kids involved in UPK early on to get them ready and prepared for kindergarten so that, and this board knows it very well, we've created 5 new classrooms for kindergarten and first grade this year, right? Because that's a growing need. So that's the 30,000 foot reason why we really want to make sure that we get UPK off the ground. And we kind of have been really trying to manage this strategically, taking steps along the way, phasing this in. But I think it's a great opportunity to talk to Mr. Chapman, who's he's a UPK supporter like I am. He understands the importance of doing this. With our new bus director, transportation director, and already working with the transportation department, Mike and Chelsea on this, I think there's a really great opportunity for us to start a pilot group, a cohort group of students. And I think we can probably look to do one group in September and maybe another group in December and build capacity as we move this forward. I think there's a strong willingness to have it happen. And we're trying to do it so it's not going to be, so it's cost neutral to the district. And just as an update, that's kind of where we are. We kind of been moving cautiously, slowly, going back and looking at it, getting a lot of people involved in the discussion. But I think the value to do this is worth all the time and effort that has been put in and will be put into making it happen. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to ask or answer.
So the pilot group is still possible for this fall?
Correct.
Is that, okay. And that would be 1 or 2 quadrants?
So it would, at this point, we're looking at and I don't know the names of them, but there's 2 centers that are like north and central that work well between that tier 2 and that tier 3 transportation time period when we have buses that are kind of idle, that are getting ready then to transport that tier 4 group of kids that we could then use to transport the UPK kids. But
But that wouldn't be a cost neutral?
That would be cost neutral, yes.
Oh, they would still be going on the buses with the other kids?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Other question, Ms. Melnick?
So would they be transported with elementary kids, like K2?
So the way it's set up with the tiers, that they would be probably on buses with K5 students.
Okay.
It wouldn't always just be the K2 students, it would be
I know
K5.
when we talked about it in the past, there was discussion of them possibly changing buses, like in riding with middle schoolers. I just wanted to make sure.
That's correct. That was one of the first proposals we talked
So
about. We've
that's
kind of
not-
moved away from that.
Okay.
Ms. Brissett?
So what time are you thinking when you say you're doing this pilot program? Is it 8:30? Is that the time that you were saying?
Yeah, good question. So the tiers, if the tier 2 ends at 8, so from 8 to 9 is when they would start there's only 2 schools in tier 3, so and they're in the southern school. So that's kind of why we were looking at the north to pilot this, because we didn't think we could do it at the south. So the tier 4 schools, which are all the elementary schools, that window between from the time tier 2 ends and tier 4 ends, those routes that would be transporting those tier 4 kids would be the same routes we would use to transport the UPK kids, and those are all elementary schools. So it would be all K5 busing.
And that would get them to their program on time?
And that would get them to the so the programs we're looking at start at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, which is the same window.
Okay, thanks.
And we've also had a discussion about possibly talking to some of those centers if they might be able to adjust their time to if they need to, but we haven't gotten there yet.
Ms. Guider, then Mr. Jones?
Just to follow up on Miss Melnick, because I also had the same concern with it originally being middle schoolers, because I have a 3-year-old. I can't imagine putting her on a bus with middle schoolers. So I really appreciate that we have kind of pivoted. Now, when that was being discussed, we also talked about there potentially being a need for aides. I guess 2 questions. I would assume because this is younger kids, there maybe wouldn't be as much of a need for that, or are we still legally obligated with as young as they are to have aides on the bus?
So the nice thing about that is the conversations that we've been having with transportation, that there probably would be the availability of attendants to be on the buses that these students would be on.
Okay. And then is there, just to clarify, because I think you said it, but I just want to make sure I understood, there would be no transfer of buses then? This would be dropping off at the center and then dropping off at the schools, or vice versa?
So little Miss Guider, who's going to go to pre-K, would be picked up at her house by the bus, and then would be transported directly to the center, dropped off at the center, and then at the end of the day, picked up at the center, transported back to their house.
And do we know approximately, I know it's still work in progress, but has it been discussed how much that would add to the children's bus ride in terms of time?
That's a great question, and that's what Transportation Center is going to have to be looking at now that we know what students might be the cohort group and how many and how they would fit into the route that's going to be made. What Mr. Armstrong was able to find, there's like there's a big pocket of UPK kids who live in the same area, which helps as far as transportation because it makes it for a shorter route. So that's something that we have to look at.
Okay, thank you.
So should we, I'm sorry, Mr. Jones.
So you said that there would be the pilot would be in 2 different groups, September, if it goes forward this way, and then also December. So with December, those students would also be riding with K through 5 students? It wouldn't,
Yeah, and the
timing
reason we're
wouldn't
doing
change
that is because the students who turn 4 in December could then ride a bus without the car seat. So we would like tell those parents, look, hey, you're gonna have to transport them yourself until December, but when December comes, when they turn 4, and they don't need a car seat, we can look at that. But again, this is all a big work in progress. So I see Mr. LaFoon over there like shaking his head like, oh, what did I get myself into here?
Mr. Salazzo.
So, not really a question, more of a statement. I know that I've heard from several parents, that are K1, K2, about the concern of having their child walk to a bus stop. Since we're going to be offering this in that format of pickup at the house to our pre-K students, I have a feeling it's going to come up from that crowd again, that why can't we do that for K1 or at least kindergarten? I just more or less kind of putting it out there, like if we can consider that as we're kind of navigating these things for the fall, I'm sure some parents out there would appreciate it.
You're looking at the brain trust over there, they'll have that, so I'm sure they'll look at that.
I'm not sure if if that's written into our policies or not, the mileage limit and stuff like that.
I believe it is. I believe it's like if you're within a quarter mile for K1, you have to walk.
Right.
For first grade, maybe it is, but
I wasn't sure if it was a policy or regulation. That's why I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know like we live right up the road, and they wouldn't pick up my daughter at our house. She had to walk all the way down the street to the house that's right in front of Elmcrest. So it's like, what's the point, right? So we just drove her.
So should we look for more information by the next board meeting? Is that safe to say?
I know we're waiting for the
At least an
questionnaire,
update of some kind?
the questionnaire that Mr. Armstrong is,
We'll talk.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
so it's a work in progress.
Okay. And just to zoom out a little for everybody, just so we know, we sitting at this table here are responsible for the education of kindergarten through 12th grade. That's what we're responsible for carrying out for the residents of Liverpool Central School District. Many years ago, people figured out that pre-K was a worthwhile program that prepared students to go into kindergarten. And I think now more than ever, we're seeing some struggles in kindergarten, right? And in our younger grades. And so this might be a way to alleviate some of those struggles and some of the intensity that that our teachers are having to deal with. So that's why we're having the discussion and why we think UPK is important. Ms. Melnick? Go ahead.
So how did you decide north and central? Because I have a family member whose child, they live in Fairway East, literally could walk to the daycare center, True North, but they're being sent to Shining Stars. Would they be bused or no? Because they're in the Willowfield area.
The district didn't have any decision-making powers on what center people would sign up their kids.
Right, but I'm
So-
just saying, for the busing, it's only for the centers in the north, the kids who are attending those two.
So to get this into like a pilot phase, we looked at where we had the least resistance of being able to do it. And it just happened to be the way the tiers are set up for the bus transportation, that we had that kind of window that was more advantageous to the centers that are north of in the district.
So the children that attend that center, not where they live, but,
Right.
okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yep.
That's a good point. So it's not the residents of the north and central quadrant. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's who's at the centers. Yeah.
The overlap is pretty substantial.
Okay,
Because of where you live and which one you go to. The
Okay.
overlap, there will be cases like you described, but the overlap.
okay. Ms. Chilbert?
The only thing I would question is, because I understand the word pilot, we're just starting out, but how soon would the other places be able to start having transportation? Because if it gets too wide, I think that becomes another issue altogether. So that's why I appreciate that we're hearing right now what we're trying to do, how we're trying to look at it, so we can go into budgeting next year to see what's gonna happen. But I don't want people to think, I just don't wanna see a pilot taking 3 years before we can have transportation for all of our students. And to answer your question, John, all of my kids, their busing has been different since day one. We used to get picked up at our house because there was no other kids on our street. And then the next year, transportation said, oh, you know what, we want you to walk to the corner. But then they'd still go right by my house to make their U-turn out. So I think with the new transportation director, that 3 years ago when these tiers were formed, there were other ideas as well. So I don't want to see us be married to these 3 tiers, because the 3 tiers were, four. The 4 tiers were actually quite controversial when they happened, because we changed things. So hopefully you'll be able to talk to some of the people that were here and saw there was other issues. And I remember I asked a question, are there other issues, other ideas besides these 4 tiers? And the answer I got was yes. So with your expertise, hopefully you can start seeing some big picture things that, well, we can make this work if we just did this. Because those schools that got changed, did they get changed to tier 3 then? The 2 complexes went to 3?
Yes.
We didn't have those in the past. Okay, so those teachers, when they went in that year, they got told in August that they were gonna be a new tier. So just so you know, hopefully you have some creative juices flowing and be like, hey, I can look at this puzzle and let me see what works. When you get to see, hey, where do our kids live? Where are they living? Just like, I'm glad that you said that the majority of kids seem to be in the north. That's why they're gonna try it in the north first, because that's the largest group of kids. But I'm anxious for you to kind of look at it as a whole puzzle that might help us with our transportation to bring some of our costs down. So welcome and good luck.
Anyone else?
If I could just thank the board for the opportunity that you've given me to be the interim superintendent here for the last 5 months. It's been a very, very enjoyable experience for me. Even as the old guy that I am, I met a lot of wonderful people who work here and made some great friends and new colleagues, and just really professionally helped myself to learning a lot of new things from people who are a lot smarter than me and are doing really wonderful work. And it's been a great opportunity for me. And for someone who's 65 to say it's been a great opportunity, you got a great thing going here. You got a lot of people who are really working hard and doing a great job. And I just really keep the momentum moving forward. And just thank you again for the opportunity.
I just want to say Mr. Nolan has expressed those similar sentiments to me a couple of times on occasions when we've been together personally, and also added that I thought this was incredible. If he could be of any help in the future, he was always willing to do what he could to help Liverpool School District move forward, and I think that's a great testament to your commitment and your devotion to K-12 education. So thank you. Pre-K through 12 education. Okay, 3.3, no committees have met. 3.4, no department update. 4.1, 2025 through 2026 Baskell agreement. This is for discussion. There were some questions about this, correct? Did they get sent in? Yes, go ahead.
They were sent in, they were never answered.
Oh, boy.
The board.
I didn't receive any questions about
Okay.
Okay. Well, we will get them sent in then. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
So we're not going to discuss this today?
Well, we can discuss it tonight. I think the question was over the kind of low fees connected to it, correct?
Yes, I realize that Baskell's a non-for-profit, but how is that impacting our district as far as what the contract says versus what it's costing us? Not that I want to get away with or eliminate it, but who's negotiating this contract, and is it in the best interests of the district?
So I think if we could get a comparison of the expenses versus revenue for the board to consume, that would be great.
And then who is negotiating this contract? Is it our legal team? Is it HR?
Honestly, I think it's a historic contract that has probably been around longer than any of us have been.
I can
Maybe
tell
Mrs.
by the
Hall
amount.
was here when the Baskell agreement was negotiated, but I don't know about anybody else. I think also part of it, and I'll get to you, Ms. Geider and Mr. Jones, I think part of it is it's partially a service to us that they come into the school. That was my first thought of it, is that we need to have some type of before and after school, and so that's part of it. I'm sorry, I saw that your email was answered, and so I thought that meant it was sent in. Clearly, that did not, so we will make sure that that does not happen in the future.
And I'm just interested to hear what other districts are, doing besides Baskell.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We could ask Ms. Reed maybe if she knows about different Baskell contracts.
Okay.
Ms. Geider, then Mr. Jones.
Thanks.
I think something was actually added to the agreement. There's an Appendix A that I don't think I saw when it was first put up here. It does seem to have a calculation of fee. So it kind of breaks it down square footage wise. The only question that I have, it does state that this is based on a cost of 180 days per year. Am I mistaken in thinking that Baskell operates also during vacation times as well? Okay. So I think maybe if we could just get, just like as Ms. Brissett said, I know that they're nonprofit, so we're not trying to make a profit of it, but just that cost of the buildings running, I think if it could be accounted for those times outside of the 180 days of the school year, that might be helpful.
I agree. I'm sure that's not a big problem to have those numbers run. Yeah. So we can do that. Any other questions beyond Mr. Jones first.
A quick one. You mentioned the cost to the district. speaking outside of the costs of like the electricity, or is there an additional cost to the district to have Baskell? I mean, I thought it was we were getting paid to essentially rent out this space to them.
We do, but like on our breaks and before school and after school, you need the custodial staff, you need the electrica, and you need the AC.
Right, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
So other than that, that's the only cost, is what, I'm asking if there's an additional cost that I wasn't aware of.
I'm not sure.
So
And then
that's,
they're here, over the summer, full-time, every day, using 2 of our buildings.
it's custodial utility, that's,
I would think custodial is really the main driver of cost. Mr. McKeever?
There's a provision in the contract that we can charge them extra for custodial specific overruns. But I do think the general point is a good one, that
Yeah.
I don't know when the last time we looked at any of our leasing arrangements is. I have the sense that we undercharge for the use of a lot of our facilities. And on one hand, it's a public service or a quasi-public service. Baskell's a 501c3. If we raise our prices, right, you're asking parents and families to pay more because those costs will get passed along to them. This is one where I'm torn, right, as a parent in that same age bracket. Raising our rent would be bad for me personally. It might be the right thing to do for the district. I've got a fiduciary responsibility district that's got to take precedence. And so I do think we need to not just look at Baskell, but all of our facilities leasing arrangements. My kids at the Town of Clay playground camp, I don't know what we charge them. I have the sense that it's not a lot, right?
I was wondering, who brought up, did somebody bring up the Town of Clay camps this past year when that agreement came through?
I think it was
No?
me.
Oh,
It's-
okay.
It's part of this broader discussion of
Yeah.
alternative revenue, and that we
Yeah.
kind of need to rethink how we envision the revenue side of our balance sheet. One big drawback that we have as a district is we are rent poor, in the sense that we have a lot of land and a lot of buildings to maintain. North Syracuse is 10 buildings, we're 15 for the same number of students. That means 50% more electrical, custodial, et cetera, right? And so I do think that if that's going to be our footprint, we need to find ways to monetize it. And that means we probably have to renegotiate some of these deals, even if it's in the public interest or in the interest of some of these programs and users, to have these services be cheaper. When we're having the battle next budget cycle about how many TAs we're going to cut, to make the two sides even out, this is probably one where we're going to wish that we had spent some more time seeing how much we could squeeze for facilities leasing. So I do think we need to reevaluate.
And are you still willing to lead a small group to oversee that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Anything else from anyone?
no, I just
Mr.
wanted to make
Jones.
sure that we're at least not, operating at a loss. It was my concern,
Yeah.
because like you said, I was a basketball kid myself. This is something that people in our community certainly need, and we don't want to see this as a money-making venture, but at the same time, we also don't want to be losing money to provide this service. So I think you raise a good point.
I appreciate it, because historically, we have not reevaluated a contract and looked at those costs until a question has come up. So, who knows? Maybe we'll be thanking Ms. Brissette for the income. Who knows? Mr. Salazzo? No? Okay. All right. This was for discussion, so we'll get some more information sent out to the board before the next meeting, and hopefully that will answer some questions. Okay? All right. 4.2, BPOS Service Agreement. This is the product of the RFP that went out for a new broker or insurance consultant, and as part of our promise to reevaluate some of the relationships that we had as a district, and was a goal of this board, I believe. Are there questions on this? Ms. Assistant Superintendent Vial put in a memo in here just giving a brief outline, and then the full agreement is also in here. Any questions on this? No, they've already been working a little bit, even though that they aren't, we aren't a fully signed yet, and so we appreciate that. Oh, sorry, Ms. Brissette.
I see on here that we can have a range of $140 to $670 hourly. How do they determine that rate? That's a huge difference.
I'm sorry, can you give me a page?
We are on
Page 2? No?
page 4 of 8.
It's beyond the recurring services. I don't know what would be beyond the recurring services. Do you happen? Oh.
My understanding would be that would be something above and beyond their normal services that we would be talking and communicating in regards to what else we were engaging with them for.
Okay.
If there was a special project or something we needed
Maybe a
to look
study or something,
into
or-
further than the normal course of business.
And they will let us know ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Mr. Nolan?
Well, just so that you know, that the contract was vetted by our council this week, not by Kate, but one of Kate's associates. Ms. File, who was the attorney that you were working on from Bond? Remember the name? Jeff? Was it Jeff? Yeah. So it's been totally vetted. We've gone back and forth with BPOS and the attorneys, and we've been negotiating, and this is the contract that we were able to negotiate to, which was satisfactory to our council and was satisfactory to BPOS. And actually, we just got it signed, I want to say Monday.
It's just the big jump between $140.
Yeah, and I think that's scope of work if we ask them to do things that are beyond the contract, and there'll be like a memo of understanding that you would agree to.
But there's no list that do study, it's X amount of dollars.
That's what you, I think, would negotiate if you decided to have them do extra work. You would negotiate what that would be. But that's the range it would cost.
Probably kind of like our attorneys, we pay less for a paralegal than we do for a full partner or something like that. Is there any other questions on BPOS? No? Okay. 5.1, public communications. I don't have any blue sheets, so we'll go to 5.2, board communications. Why don't we start with our newest board member, Ms. Geider?
I just quickly, I don't have much to say, but I did want to send my condolences to the family who lost their child from Morgan Road.
Thank you, Ms. Geider. Ms. Martin?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Nolan for all of the hard work and help and being very responsive to our questions. Thank you very much. Enjoy your travels.
Yes. Mr. Salazzo? Ms. Brissette? Ms. Chilbert?
Just wanted to say the same thing. Thank you, Brian. I haven't got to work with you very long, but it's been great, and just your responsiveness to the emails. Like, I love the exchange today. It just was to the point. The question was asked and answered, and I really appreciate that, because that's what we're working on as a board this year, is really getting our communication where it should be. Looking forward to working with Mr. Chapman to make sure that we can stay on that positive path forward with communication. I think that's what we're all looking for, and I think that's what our whole district's looking for. So thank you very much.
Sent him an email at 9:45 last night, and I had a response within 10 minutes, so that's responsive right there. Ms. Melnick? Mr. McKeever?
Just a couple quick things. I want to echo what everybody else said and thank Mr. Nolan for his service to the district. It's been great working with you. You came into a difficult situation, and in a short amount of time, I think you've made a lot of good change for this district. So thank you again for all your hard work, especially on an issue that, as you all know, is near and dear to my heart, UPK busing. I understand that we have a pro pre-K guy coming in too, is what I've been told. So I'm looking forward to building out that relationship. But I do think when we pull this off, I'm going to say when, we're going to be knocking down a barrier to access for pre-K for a lot of families, like several hundred. And I think, as Mr. Nolan said, you talk to kindergarten or first grade teachers, they can see the readiness, the difference in readiness from kids that had pre-K. There was actually a really cool study that they did in the Boston area 10-ish years ago, where there weren't enough seats for all the families that wanted them, so they did a random lottery, And so you had a perfect experiment for all you science folks, right? A control group and a treatment group. And the differences were there in test scores and the number of referrals and behavioral incidents and so forth, even up into third, fourth, fifth grade. It really does pay off, especially for social and emotional learning. And, you know, one of the groups I try to stump for up here is the group that I'm a part of, which is like parents of young kids. And so the logistical challenges of getting your kid to pre-K are a non-starter for a lot of people. Working families, families where the center they got into is not close to where they live and so forth, or it's not close to where they're going to work, or the timing doesn't work out. So to be able to knock down that barrier and provide that for a lot of people, I think is going to help level up our test scores down the line, and I think especially key, given that I've started to hear this term, the COVID babies coming to kindergarten, with like usually scare quotes around it and like images of like gremlins crawling out of like people are concerned about what they're going to get. So more than ever, probably time to invest in those early interventions. So I'm assuming we pull this off. I'm looking forward to putting my little guy on a bus, not just because he loves buses and any other thing with big wheels. But speaking of which, too, I did want to say welcome to Mr. Diallo-Laffoon. We had to obviously approve your appointment tonight, so I did a little bit of reading on you, and I understand that I'm going to read off of the Waterloo Central School District website, is where you're coming from, right? Waterloo Central School District Transportation Department has been named one of the best in the nation by TransFinder Corp. It was recognized as a top transportation team in the category for departments with less than 100 employees, one of only 6 transportation teams recognized in the U.S. and the only district in New York State to receive this honor. So thank you very much for joining us. We're looking forward to having you. You got some good challenges in front of you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. McKeever. 6.1, approve service agreement with BPOS. Do I have a motion to approve the service agreement between the Liverpool Central School District and BPOS as presented? Motion by Ms. Melnick, second by Mr. McKeever. Any discussion? All those in favor? All hands are raised. Thank you. 6.2, stop loss renewal. Is there a motion to approve the Excelis stop loss renewal for the 25-26 school year as presented? Motion by Mr. McKeever, second by Ms. Guider. Any discussion? All those in favor? All hands are raised.
And I just want to just comment on this because I got the questions from Mr. Jones this morning, and I went right over to our new Assistant Superintendent for Business, Kim, and I said, Kim, we have to answer these questions. I have to get it back to the board so they'll be, have them for tonight. And I tell you, it's been a pleasure just the 3 weeks that Kim's been here on some of the things that have already happened. I'm going to sing her praises because I think this board is going to be very, very appreciative of what you're going to be able to receive from Kim. Some of the things that you've been asking me since I've been here for that I think are going to be things that you're going to get regularly. And I'm very pleased we were able to answer those questions, and it wasn't me. Okay? It was being able to sit there and kind of brainstorm with Kim and walk through and talk through this. But I'm not sure that, well, I'm just going to say that's it. I think we're in a really good place with our business office, and I'll leave it like that.
Yeah, I just because I didn't get a chance to do public comment, but I was going to mention thank you for the quick response to those questions. It was very quick and thorough and answered every concern I had, and I was shocked to see how quickly it came through, so thank you.
Okay, 6.3, do I have a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Liverpool Central School District and the United Liverpool Faculty Association? Motion by Ms. Melnick, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All those in favor? All hands are raised. Thank you. 6.4, is there a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement between Liverpool Central School District and the and the United Liverpool Faculty Association? Motion by Ms. Brissette, second by Ms. Martin. Any discussion? Happy to see this go through. All those in favor? All hands are raised. Thank you. And my apologies again to Mr. LaFoon for not having his name right in front of me. We're very excited to have you, and as you can see, we're a transportation-oriented board, so it'll be a great year ahead. On August 5th, there's a Board of Education workshop. That is not a public meeting. That is a non-public retreat work session. 7.2, the next Board of Education meeting, public meeting, is August 19th at 6 p.m. There is no need for executive session, as far as I know, and therefore, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Motion by Ms. Chilbert, second by Mr. McKeever. Any discussion? All those in favor? All hands are raised. We are adjourned 6:59 p.m.